Hello, welcome to this tutorial. So in our last tutorial, we actually looked at how to actually set up a local atom. The reason why we did that because we are going to be working with an FTP process. So, but however, when you're using your FTP process, you can actually use a cloud atom. But because in a scenario we are using a secured FTP, which is something you might come across in most of your projects, because our cloud, one of our servers is actually hosted on Amazon AWS. So that's the idea of the tutorial, to use scenarios that are very real to real, that are very similar to real projects, so that you can actually get familiar. You can actually get familiar with the technologies. So moving forward, I just want to actually introduce you to the FTP shapes, and I'll just differentiate because they actually three that can be very confusing. I'll just briefly explain them. Then later in the next class, we'll actually look at how to work with an SFTP. Because if you actually understand the SFTP, you can actually work simply with the FTP. It's just a layer of security telling you how do you handle your keys and your configurations. So let's get started. So I'm just going to create a new process we post. So I'm just going to call this um, FTP Groups. FTP Groups. So currently we're not doing anything here. So I'll just start right here. Start. So I just want to bring out three shapes. I want to bring FTP. So we have FTP, yes, which is simply when you're trying to exchange files. You can, if you have worked your exchanging files between two servers, you'll be very familiar with this. Now, if you actually, this is also we have FTP. Okay, we have FTP version 2. We have SFTP. I'll just group them together like this, and we have this. So now the question is, you ask what's the difference between all these? All these are FTP servers. So like if you click on configuration here, you would see the interesting part here is most times the connection. You see like okay the FTP and SSL options. Yes, you can see host, ports, connection mode, username and password. The username and password. So I'll just close. If we come to SFTP, the idea is just to compare them, and I'll explain the difference between them. When you are working with SFTP, under the connections, you're going to have, before we had the the host and also the options, but now under the SSH options, you see it's quite different. It's quite different. You see, what you see is use private key authentication, the key file path. So this is going to be where you're actually going to store the file on your local system, your PPK file, because you are working with I'm using a PPK file. Then also, if you have a password that generated that you put in when you are generating your PPK file, you put it here, and also if you have any host entries, you can put it here. So now, the idea between both of them is, I'll just close this. The key difference between this is with SFTP, it gives you the opportunity to bring in to import a key, so like a PPK key or a PEM key or whatever key that you actually set up on your when configuring your system or with your network administrator. That's the difference between FTP and SFTP. So it's an extra layer of security that is provided, that allows us to provide and a key, and also it allows us to enter a password. Then the question is, what is this version 2? What is the version 2? So it simply means version 2, just it's similar to the previous, as I mentioned earlier on, but it's just, it allows us to exchange servers using exchange messages using Java secure channel. It's called GSCH, which is an amazing technology. You can check it out. However, I've not seen a lot of projects actually use this, but it's used in the real world. It's used in the real world. GSCH. It's an extra layer of, it's the connection. It's simple. However, just to help you understand this, in all this, the operations will be similar. It's just the connections that are different. How do you connect? So like you see this one, the connection is different. Yeah, you need to provide a Java file path, a path to where your how where your configuration was done. Then it's just the connections that differs between these four. However, in the tutorial, we're working with SFTP because this is how we configure the AWS server, which currently runs on Lightsail. If you're actually working with EC2 on Amazon as well, or working with any of the services provided by Azure or GCP, Google Cloud Platform, you can also leverage SFTP as well. So that's why we'll be going ahead with it. So we'll just clean this, and the next process will be creating a simple process of how to convert a CSV and sending it into our database. Thank you.